Welcome back. Tonight we're asking the question, what would Jesus really do? For Rick Warren, that's a no-brainer. Jesus often spoke of the poor, and that's also his mission. Joining us now is Pastor Rick Warren of Saddleback Church and author of the best-selling book, The Purpose-Driven Life. Now, Pastor Warren, you've been quoted as saying, I'm so tired of Christians being known for what they are against. Now, you focus on poverty, AIDS, global warming. Why the difference between what you focus on and the religious right?
Well, I think it's all important. I just think there's a bigger agenda than just what evangelicals have been known for in the past, which is primarily morality issues, but I think that there are social morality issues too that are important, that Jesus cared for the sick, he assisted the poor, he educated the next generation. Those are issues that we care about too, and historically Christians cared about education and cared about poverty and cared about justice, and I just think we need to get back to the 19th century evangelicalism, or first century Christianity.
So are you bothered when people say Rick Warren, part of the religious right?
I don't consider myself a part of the religious right. People ask me, I've said many times, I'm not right-wing and I'm not left-wing, the whole bird. I'm an American, and you can't have one wing to fly. A one-winged bird's just going to fly around in a circle. I think you need both wings. The fact is, nobody's right all the time. I am a conservative without a doubt. I am pro-life without a doubt. I am opposed to gay marriage, but those are not just the only things I care about. I also care about helping people find jobs. I care about helping people get out of poverty. I care about dealing with diseases like AIDS and malaria and a lot of these other problems that are important too.
Let's talk about AIDS. You invited Senator Barack Obama to your church to discuss that particular issue. Also, Senator Sam Brownback. And Brownback said, Senator Obama, welcome to my house. And Obama said, no, this is God's house. And so you got a lot of criticism for inviting Obama. How did you deal with that? And how did, frankly, did you put evangelicals in check to say, look, he's a Christian, but this is an AIDS issue. This is not abortion. This is not gay marriage.
Yeah. Well, the conference was on AIDS, not on abortion, and so we were looking for people who had spoken out publicly about AIDS. And of course, Barack Obama had taken an AIDS test in Kenya, and so I just called him up and I said, would you come and be a part of this? I don't have to agree with everything a person believes in order to work with them in a particular area. I don't agree with everything that some of my gay friends agree with, and they don't agree with everything I do, but we're working together on AIDS. I don't agree with everything that the women's feminist movement believes, but when they want to fight pornography, I'm on their side on that issue. And so I don't have to agree with every personal belief of a person in order to find common ground.
Let's speak to the war in Iraq. Reverend Jerry Falwell has said that God is pro-war. What do you make of that kind of stance when Jesus Christ was called the Prince of Peace, but Reverend Falwell would say that God is pro-war?
Well, I tell you what, the Bible clearly states that there's some things worth dying for. I would die for my freedom. I would die for the freedom of my family. I would die for the freedom of America. There are some things that are worth more than life. And clearly, there are some things worth fighting for. Jesus did say, I came to bring peace as a Prince of Peace, but he also said, I came to bring a sword. And governments are ordained by God to administer justice. There is real evil in the world, and we don't just coexist with evil. The Bible says we are to fight evil.
There are people who are criticizing this war, and others are saying that it's a good war, it's right and it's just, and they say this is a war against Islam. What about this whole notion of us being in the middle of a holy war, Christians battling Muslims all across the country?
Well, that's not quite true. It's not a battle against Islam. It's a battle against a brand of Islam which is actually more political than it is spiritual. And many, having been to the Middle East myself and having talked with many Muslim leaders, they certainly don't validate what, many Muslim leaders do not validate what Al-Qaeda believes, because Al-Qaeda even denies its own Quran. And when you get people out there saying, we're going to train people to be terrorists who blow themselves up, and teaching little boys and little girls to be martyrs, what we need to do is work with moderate Muslims who also believe that that's not martyrdom at all. That's just sheer murder. We need to redefine the word martyr. Martyr does not mean I blow myself up to kill you. That's not martyrdom. Martyrdom is when I lose my life to defend my faith. In other words, you kill me because I refuse to renounce what I believe. So little boys and little girls, or grown men for that matter, strap bombs to themselves and blow up others. That's not martyrdom in any sense of the word. And I have not found any religion that says that the bottom line in their faith is go blow yourself up. So that's not even true Islam.
Well, you talk about respect, and there are some folks who say we should be stewards over what God has given us. And a lot of pastors focus on money. I mean, you go to some churches and it's about money, money, money. Might as well be the OJs singing that song. You've been highly critical of prosperity gospel. You've even called it baloney. Why all of a sudden is the focus so much on money and people are gravitating to bigger houses, more money, cars, material goods? What's up with the prosperity, the gospel prosperity?
Well, I think, Roland, that fundamentally all of us are selfish people. We want what we want, when we want it, and we want it now. And we will use anything. Politics can be used for selfish purposes. Education can be used for selfish purposes. Certainly business can be used for selfish purposes. And even faith and religion can be used for selfish purposes. The point that I was simply making is that when Jesus said, I've come to give you life in all its abundance, he wasn't talking about material possessions, because at the same time, Jesus also said a man's life consists not in the abundance of things that he possesses. Your value has absolutely nothing to do with your valuables. Your net worth and your self-worth are not the same thing. And Jesus clearly did not teach that God wanted everybody to be a millionaire. So I repudiate that belief.
And we hear lots of that naming and claiming all around the place. You have people who even go after various ministries and tracking what they do. But let's just be honest. Is there something really wrong biblically with having a big house, having a nice car? Or is it a matter of having excess?
Yeah, well, the answer to that question is I don't think it's a sin to be rich. I think it's a sin to die rich. I think God intends you to use it. Money to be used and not loved. It is a tool.
So you say it's a sin to die rich? You say it's a sin to die rich?
I think it is. I think it is. I think you should give it away. I think you should use it. The Bible tells us over and over and over, don't store up for yourselves riches in heaven. You know that my wife and I are reverse tithers. We give away 90% and we live on 10%. I've been playing this game with God for years. We started tithing 10% and each year would raise it over 30 years. Now, there's no doubt about it that when you serve God, it brings blessing in your life. Sometimes that is physical blessing. Sometimes it's not. But you don't judge your closest to God on how much you've got in the bank. We're to love people and we're to use money. Now, what happens is if we start loving money, we end up using people to get it, and we get the priorities reversed.
Pastor Warren, I can't find many people who have never been criticized before, and you certainly have your share of critics. People say that you mix Christianity with pop culture, pop psychology. What about that particular issue? Does it bother you in terms of when they criticize your books and they say it's pretty much Christianity light?
Well, actually, Jesus said, beware when all men speak well of you. The only way to not be criticized is do nothing, be nothing, say nothing. And the moment you put your shingle out, somebody's going to start throwing rocks at it. The truth is, criticism is good for us. It keeps us in check. It keeps us humble. What I do with critics, and there are many, is if it's true, I listen and learn from it. If it's untrue, I ignore it and forget it. And ultimately, I just remember that God is the ultimate judge of my life.
Jesus, of course, lives in the Spirit, but if he was walking this earth today, what would Jesus be focusing on? What would be his agenda?
Well, I have no doubt about it that if Jesus were here today, he'd be hanging out with people who have HIV/AIDS. There's no doubt in my mind about that, because they are the lepers of the first century. They're the people say, I don't want to be around it. I don't want to hear about it. I'm afraid I might get it. People are scared to death of it. And Jesus hung out with people who had leprosy in those days. He cared for the sick. He assisted the poor. In Luke chapter 4, he gives his agenda, and it's basically, I'm going to meet the needs of the people around me.
Pastor Warren, last question, and it's really been bothering me. When did the